Hi, the week before the end of the year is the best time to reflect. So at the moment, I'm doing a lot of reflection. As you know, my channel is called Mortgages and Money Matters, and today I'm going to be talking about the money matters element. So, the first thing I'd like to talk about is check your money habits. Now, the best way to do this, as I said, I've mentioned reviewing your bank statement, so that's great. But the other thing to look at is get a diary and every day for 7 days, track what you spend. Every time you spend something, write it down. So, how many times do you get coffee? How many times do you go to the supermarket? How many lunches do you get? That kind of thing. And then on the Sunday, just sit and review it. Did I really need to make that purchase? Is there an alternative? That brings me on to my next tip: prepare, prepare, prepare. So I've just started a job where I have to go into the office again, and I find that I'm spending money in the morning for breakfast. I'm obviously buying my lunch, drinks in between, and I'm really, really conscious of that. So in January, what I'm going to start doing is buy stuff that I can put in the cupboard in the kitchen so I can make my breakfast when I arrive. There's coffee and everything there if that's what you're into, so you can have it there. And if you can bring it into the office kitchen and leave it there. Lunch, I actually prepare my lunch the day before now and bring it into the office each day. And I find one, because it's cold, I kind of don't really want to go out at lunchtime anyway. And two, I actually prepare something I like rather than going to the shops at lunchtime trying to find something, anything, and you end up spending £5, £10 a day, and that can so rack up. That's £50 every week. We're talking, if 4 weeks go on the basis of 4 weeks in a month, that's £200 a month just on lunch that you didn't particularly really like anyway. And if you're like me, spending a fiver on breakfast and then a tenner on lunch, that's actually £15. So that's even worse. So that's another rule. The other thing that I talked about in a previous video is the 24-hour rule. So if you're planning to spend something, something I've done on all my apps on my phone is I've taken the passwords off. So I actually now need to go look for the password rather than click pay now. We all know what apps we're talking about, that you can instantly buy it, and then when it arrives you realise that you didn't even want it in the first place but can't be bothered to return it. With the 24-hour rule, you actually put a time limit for 24 hours before you actually purchase it. Now, I've heard recently from another video about the 7 day rule or even the 30-day rule. And obviously, this really depends on the level of expenditure you're talking about. Now, if you're spending sort of less than £100 or £50, then the 24-hour rule is great. If we're talking hundreds of pounds, then possibly the 7 day rule should be in place, where you write it in a notepad what you want to purchase. And then in 7 days, if you still have all the reasons, you can write your pros and cons as well. And if it all still stacks up 7 days later, by all means purchase it. It also gives you time to get 3 quotes. So like everybody says, when you're doing home improvements, as a property investor myself, whenever I'm doing home improvements or work on the flats, I always get 3 quotes from builders and plumbers, electricians, whatever. But whatever you're purchasing, rather than having that saved password and going straight and buying it from the one source, do a bit of research. And if you're doing the 7 day rule, that gives you 7 days to research and get 3 quotes. You'd be quite surprised what other prices. And then, as I mentioned on a previous video, you've also got the cashback websites. So sometimes it may be slightly more expensive, but because you're getting cashback on it, it is a massive savings. So I'd look at that. And if you're talking about thousands of pounds worth of a purchase, then I definitely consider the 30-day rule, or at least till the next payday rule. And really sit down, write the pros and cons again in the handy notebook, and decide, whether it's a valid purchase for you. The next thing I'd like to talk about is setting financial goals. Now, I know in January or end of December, everybody sets a financial goal for the year. I really feel that's far too long. I would set a 90-day goal. And then what I would do, again, in my trusty notebook, I like to write things down because it makes it more visual and it makes it more real. So like with the tracking of the finance, you note it all down. With the 90-day rule, you actually write down what goal do you want to achieve in those 90 days. And every day you just spend 2 or 3 minutes on one step you can take to get towards that goal. So it's a lot easier when you're coming up with a 90-day goal to have 90 tiny, minuscule, micro steps to get to that 90-day goal, rather than writing it down and then 90 days later saying, has it happened? You know, it really is obviously a lot better sort of break things down and have them bite-sized. So every day just spend a couple of minutes saying, okay, what can I work on today to get me to that goal? For example, my goal is to get 1,000 subscribers. So that's what I'm working towards. Now, on that note, please subscribe if you are enjoying the tips and everything that you're getting, because obviously that brings me out more, and it's a very new channel because I've only been around for a few months now. The next thing is, who are your subscribers? Who do you subscribe to, I should say? Is it ones that are just for fun, or is it ones for a plan? So if you know in 2023 that you have certain goals you want to meet, like by the end of that year or even the next year you want to have your own property, then obviously channels like this, Mortgages and Money Matters, are great. Please subscribe again if you can, if you haven't, and share it with others who you think have the same goal, but others that can give you information and tips. I mean, it's really, really good to subscribe to channels that are going to educate you. The next thing I'd like to talk about is investing in yourself. It's along the same sort of theme. You know, a lot of money is spent on things that, you know, food or you know, material things, but how much do you actually spend on yourself? How many courses have you been on recently? How many good books have you been on recently? What time are you spending on yourself? I try and read, well, actually I do read for at least a minimum of 20 minutes every day. I love books and I love learning, and what I'll do is I'll give you my top 10 books as one of my videos, but it really is worth investing in yourself. The next thing I wanted to talk about is money consciousness. Now, reviewing your bank statements every month is great. Having that 7-day money tracker is also great. But when you're looking at your finances, do it from the point of view of becoming money conscious. The other thing is, I did the other day, which I found really, really useful, was I went to the supermarket and I actually took out cash. So I took out cash, I had £50, I had a shopping list, and as I went through, I added up, and it depends whether you've got, you know, you're good with numbers or not. If you're not, just use your phone. And I literally went round the store, me and the kids did actually, so they found it a lot of fun, and we made a game of it. Every time we put something in the basket, we added up how much on top. So then when we actually got to the till, we knew how much things were, and it made you a lot more money conscious. So it's all very well looking at your bank statement at the end of the month, but that's the past. It's great, obviously, as I said, tracking it every day for 7 days, but that also is sort of the day it's happened. By doing this, as you're putting it into your basket, you're actually calculating what you're doing and using cash again. And I know that's the thing about contactless, I find. You don't acknowledge or think about the purchase as much. You know, not you've got an unlimited amount of money, but you know, with contactless, you just contact it and, you know, worry about how to cover the bills later on. With cash and having a shopping list, you know what you need beforehand. That really does help you stick to the budget. So those are my tips for money tips for 2023. If you want more like this, please subscribe, and if you've got any ideas on any videos, please just put the comments in the chat, and I will more than happily do some more videos like this. Thanks, take care.